The Imaginary is the third theatrical work from Studio Ponoc, following their debut, Mary and the Witch's Flower, and the short story anthology, Modest Heroes. Studio Ponoc is essentially an offshoot of Studio Ghibli, with various employees, animators, and directors joining its ranks, such as Hiromasa Yonebayashi, as well as Ponoc's co-founder and the producer and screenwriter of The Imaginary, Yoshiaki Nishimura. Nishimura worked as a producer at Studio Ghibli, being nominated for 2 Oscars, for The Tale of the Princess Kaguya and When Marnie Was There. The Imaginary is directed by Yoshiyuki Momose, who directed one of the short stories in Modest Heroes, and it is based on the novel by A.F. Harold. The story involves a character named Rudger, an imaginary friend. By the way, his name is spelled this way, although on the subtitles on my Blu-ray, it reverts back to Roger at times. Funny, I know. Rudger is the creation of a girl named Amanda. For 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, he has been her constant companion on many adventures. They made a promise to always protect each other, never disappear, and never cry. Amanda goes on plenty of adventures with Rudger, even to the occasional bewilderment of her mother, who lives with Amanda above a bookshop that is closing down after the death of her husband. Trouble, however, soon arrives in the form of Mr. Bunting and his companion, a creepy imaginary girl who looks like that girl from The Ring. Bunting is a man who eats imaginaries, as a means to preserve his own imagination and to extend his life. When Rudger and Amanda are running from Mr. Bunting at a shopping center, Amanda gets hit by a car and is sent to the hospital. After that, Rudger begins to disappear, which is the fate of imaginaries when their creators forget them or if they die. At first, Rudger thinks Amanda is dead, and when he starts to fade, another imaginary by the name of Zanzan, this cat right here, takes Rudger to a library where other imaginaries have made their home. They are led by Emily, and they stay there for 3 reasons. 1, to hide from Mr. Bunting. 2, to work as one-day imaginaries for other children when they are at play. And 3, the library is their home and can create places to go and stay via the books in there, as imaginaries can't imagine places or events on their own. While staying at the library, and in doing a job as being a one-day imaginary, Rudger learns that Amanda is still alive, and he goes to find her despite warnings from Emily and Zanzan, and despite the lingering threat of Mr. Bunting. At its core, The Imaginary is a somewhat familiar but well-told story about children and their imaginary friends, and how the imagination shapes them, and how they fill needs at sad, scary, or desperate times. Although I imagine this is not the first story to cover this was the first time I actually experienced a story where imaginary friends experience something of an existential crisis, at least as best as I can put it. When their creator forgets their imaginary friend or when they die, what do the imaginaries do? What becomes of them when they disappear? There's even a rather sad scene in the film where Roger sees a robot imaginary and asks how it feels to disappear or what he thinks will happen to him. That's a really sad idea, and it is the fate that awaits them, apart from being eaten by Mr. Bunting, if they're not careful. Imaginaries are born because they fill a need or a gap in a child's life, and even help them deal with whatever issues that make them sad. For Amanda, her father died, and seeing her mother sad made her need someone to take her troubles away. Or even for her own mother, she needed a friend to fight off a scary snake, and to make her feel safe otherwise. Rudger in turn needs Amanda, as otherwise he will cease to exist outside the library, and at the very least, he wants to make sure she is okay, and to make sure she keeps her promise to never forget him, and that task outweighs the risk of being eaten by Bunting or disappearing in the process of trying. The story is told through bright, very colorful, and very vivid animation that is done via computers and not by more traditional means, which I imagine can be a bit of a sore spot for some out there, but I didn't mind. It sells the story very well and is not half-assed in any way. The voice acting from the Japanese cast is incredibly good as well, which was the only version I had, and that only came with Japanese audio with English subtitles. I don't own a Netflix account, but I know that one has a dub. This is the 3rd feature from Studio Ponoc, and they're really starting to show promise. I know plenty of people out there were kind of meh on Mary and the Witch's Flower, but I thought that one was okay. But with The Imaginary, Ponoc seems to be finding their footing. I really liked Mary and the Witch's Flower, but The Imaginary, I feel, is a bit more of a stronger, more confident film. To be honest, I wasn't too sold on this based on the trailers, but it was much better than I thought it would be. I promised that I would keep this video very short and spoiler light, and so I'm not going to reveal anymore. It's on Netflix, so check it out if you're interested. I recommend it. I will also get around to talking about Modest Heroes as well. Since I really like animated short story anthologies, that one is right up my alley.